You know it's going to be a good one when we fully talk about the whole thing before
Yeah,
we
we've
press
had like
record.
an hour-long chit-chat about the episode before we even push record. Oh, geez. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, Katie.
Hi.
For some reason, your tone gave me the creeps.
Yeah, that was intentional.
Welcome to Please Bless This Podcast. This is the podcast where two sisters talk about all things Mormon and pop culture, and sometimes Mormon home decor.
Yeah. Love to hate it. Love to kind of love it. I'm conflicted.
Feel nostalgic about it. Probably
Yeah.
still do some of it low key.
Oh, for sure.
I'm Elisa.
I'm Katie.
Today we're talking about the Netflix series Dream Home Makeover.
Did you have to think about what it was called?
It's the worst title. I always want to call it Extreme Home Makeover.
Yep.
Which is that show from back in the day where they would like drive the bus in front of the house and be like, move that bus.
Yeah, Ty Pennington.
Yes.
Let's go.
It's too close to that name.
Totally. Yeah,
and it's also
bad.
just so generic, Dream Home Makeover.
It doesn't tell us anything.
The title is off and I can never remember it. Dream Home Makeover. So
Yes.
The first season aired in 2020 and there have already been 4 seasons released. The 4th season just came out in December 2022. So they are cranking this show out. The reason it's relevant to us is that it's set in Utah. The leads are Shay and Sid McGee. And we are 99.9% sure that they have been or currently are Mormon.
Right. They're definitely Mormon presenting.
Yes.
They give us little to no reason to doubt that they would be Mormon and all the reason in the world to assume that they are, but they don't outright say whether or not they are, which drives me crazy.
Right. And they walk that line so carefully. There are moments in this series where you're like, oh, here it comes. Oh no, they took it back.
They'll almost say something and you're like, oh, they're about to clear the air.
No, they're about to bear their testimony. Nothing. We did find them listed on Mormon Wiki, which Mormon Wiki is a thing.
Yeah, love it.
If you're curious about prominent Mormons or wonder if someone's a Mormon, take yourself over to Mormon Wiki. Yes, Sid and Shay McGee have an entry in Mormon Wiki that says that they met when they were both in college. Shay was a student at BYU, and Sid was roommates with her brother. And Sid was going to UVU, Utah Valley University. And if you don't know, those schools are close together geographically. Yeah. So there's some overlap. If you go to BYU, you're going to know some folks going to UVU, but there are status differences.
For sure.
BYU is harder to get into. It's much more Mormon. Yeah, just, a little different. So he was going to UVU, roommates with Shay's brother. They met through the brother and then started dating immediately. Got married when Shay was, I think, 19.
Woo!
So, a typical Mormon story, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people out there who know them. Like, they're in my ward, they're in my stake. My cousin's best friend grew up in her home ward. Send us the info.
Yeah, if you're that person, we want to know everything.
Yeah.
Every boring detail.
Yep.
We want to know. Thank you.
No detail is too boring.
Ever.
So regardless of their current Mormon status, this show is steeped in like little Mormon red flags.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And we just want to talk about
across the board, this kind of home decor trend we see on the show. The aesthetic is very Mormon. The people are very Mormon. The vibes are just Mormon across the board.
Right. Even the people who aren't Mormon, like the folks who are getting their homes remodeled and obviously aren't, they are aware of the Mormonness around them. Like you were talking about the very last episode of season 4, they're remodeling a bathroom for a couple that are very visibly not Mormon presenting. Like tattoos, and the man has pierced ears, right? Active Mormons. That's just not what you're going to see.
Mhm.
But at one point, the wife says the word ass
Mhm.
and like immediately covers her mouth. It's like, oh, I can't say that. I can't say that. But it's
Yeah.
like, this is a Netflix show.
Right. What would make you think you couldn't say ass
Except
all
the
these GD Mormons running around?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tattoos and piercings aside, I could tell these people weren't Mormon just from pulling up to their house. They
Okay.
like actually had a legitimately cool old house that was like decorated like normal people with like art and personal belongings. And it wasn't like some cookie cutter experience. And there was just like personal touches everywhere that
Sure.
you just kind of don't see in
They
any of these
didn't
other houses.
they didn't have like every piece of wall art clearly from a Deseret book.
Right.
Yeah.
It was really refreshing.
The other thing about that couple is that he really wants a bidet. And Shay is like, oh,
So
as if
stupid.
that is a little bit scandalous, a little bit weird, something she doesn't really want to talk about or know too much about. Like, she's very much playing it up that she is not a bidet person.
No. Yeah.
And that
like,
is so Mormon.
that's so Mormon. I find that so funny. As if we don't all have buttholes. I mean, we all have buttholes,
Right.
but we can't talk about
We
it.
cannot talk about it.
And we cannot stimulate them.
No. Oh my goodness. No. That was the most Mormon Shay has ever been, is how she talked about those bidets. Also, confession time. I have a bidet.
Yeah, so do I, thanks to you.
And yeah, we gifted Katie a bidet this year for Christmas because
it's great.
It's magnificent. Why wouldn't you want one?
Yeah, you want to be less clean, Shay?
Yeah, right. Just get a grip.
Interesting.
Anyway, we got off on a tangent on that one episode, but in general, we want to dig into like the Mormonness of this series.
Where to begin? Should we talk about like the foundation of like who the hell are these people? What's their company? So Shay and Sid McGee are co-founders of McGee and Co. Is that is that technically okay? Or Studio McGee.
McGee and Co. is their furniture and decor business.
Okay.
And Studio McGee is their design firm. So they have two businesses, two different names.
Roger that. So my understanding is that Studio McGee started when Shay was designing their own like first home. So she like got a following on Instagram. Yada 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 was really successful. They started a legit company. For some reason, Sid became the CEO. It's unclear what he does.
And it's like a running joke throughout the series that nobody knows what he does. And again, that feels very Mormon to me. I do think that like this sort of charming performative incompetence is a gendered thing beyond just Mormon culture.
For sure.
But Sid's flavor of it is so Mormon to me. He's like, I'm from Southern California. I like to skate and surf and eat donuts. But also, my wife needs to be smoking hot and we gotta be rich and look rich. And like, I'm super fun, but also like, oh, I'm kind of dumb and you don't even know what I do.
Yeah, but I'm also the CEO.
But
like,
I'm the
presumably,
CEO.
Presumably he's like doing stuff.
Yes, but we never see that actually happening on the show. Like, he tags along with her to things and like makes jokes about how he doesn't know what anybody's talking about or he doesn't have any like ideas. He asks someone once about their kitchen storage and is like, don't worry, I won't have any other design questions for you. I'm just along for the ride. Like, his whole affect is like, I'm just here to make a couple of jokes.
Yeah, it's like he's a hands-off Chip Gaines.
Yes.
Because like at least Chip Gaines is like getting into stuff and like doing demo and stuff.
So I actually read that when they first were trying to get their TV show going, they worked with a production company that was like, we got to make Sid the contractor. So basically, like the exact formula of Chip and Joanna Gaines on Fixer Upper. He'd be the contractor, she'd be the designer. And apparently they like tried it out and he got like a sledgehammer and they like made this sizzle reel. But it was it just wasn't right because he's not a contractor.
He's not that guy. No. Release the footage.
Release
cowards.
The footage. And like, here's the thing. I like Sid.
Me too.
I find him likable, but maybe that's partly my Mormon conditioning because I've just like, I grew up where, imagine if Sid McGee was in your ward as a kid. You'd be like, that dude is awesome. He's like fun and funny and he's in a good mood because he's not got any work to do and he's rich. What's he got to be mad about?
He seems like a really nice dad.
Yeah.
Real girl dad energy.
He wants to hang out with the kids. He wants to eat snacks.
Yeah, he seems cool. Yeah. He's too punny. He's got to tone that down a little bit for me, for my sake, please.
Flaw for Katie.
It's so just relentless. Just around every corner, there's a bad joke. Just a soul crushing. And like, he does have a wife who like doesn't laugh at him, which is I think good. You know, keep it up, girlfriend.
Yeah. Hold that resistance.
Seriously. But I struggle sometimes, but I do like him. I like both of them. I'm going to talk a little bit of shit, but I don't think either of them are bad people.
Yeah.
I'm just a shit talker by nature.
Sure. I enjoy the show. I enjoy them. I watched every episode in preparation for this podcast. It's like a good little escapist, pleasant experience for me.
And be clear, you rewatched every episode.
Listen.
Because I've seen every episode.
I am a diligent podcaster and I wanted it fresh in my mind.
You're really committed. I honestly appreciate that you did that because you noticed a lot of things that I didn't remember because it's been a couple of years.
To be fair, I had COVID and so I've been just sitting around.
Yeah, you have.
So
how
why
you doing,
not
by the way?
Rewatch all of it? I'm doing good.
Good.
Better.
So glad.
Dream Home Makeover really cured me.
Dream Makeover Home Edition. Yeah. Extreme Dream.
Starring Ty Pennington
Makeover.
and Sid McGee. Yeah, a little more background about them, right? So they moved from California to Utah. I saw a quote where Shay explains that, you know, Southern California was just too expensive for starting a business. Utah's more business friendly. And again, that's them walking that line where they don't outrightly say, well, we went to college in Utah. We have family in Utah. But they do. Her parents live there.
Oh.
So anyway, their Mormonness, again, is mysterious. But they move to Utah. Their company grows. They start this TV show and it seems like things have really taken off. I mean, they have like a collection with Target. They have multiple collections with Target at this point. They have all these employees. Their offices are getting bigger. Their house is a freaking castle, man. It's so
their house is insane.
So I think they're doing well.
Yeah.
And Mormons love prosperity.
They do.
I am sure they are, if they still go to church, they are the absolute celebrities of their stake.
Oh, yeah. With their abundance, their wealth, and with Sid's personality.
Yeah. And they're both beautiful people, you know, like, and they have really cute kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure adorable. Their stake is like, let's get the McGees out here for a pep talk, man. We gotta let them show everybody that the Lord blesses you for your righteousness.
Yeah, Shay, bring those white teeth with you and let's come give a talk.
I will say, and I know that this is a little bit, it's not the most tactful thing to even discuss, but as we're watching and thinking about, are these folks Mormon? Are they active Mormon? What's their relationship to Mormonism? I can't help but notice when Shay is wearing something where if she was wearing temple garments, they would show.
Right.
And without fail, there is not a trace of temple garments in this series. And I think that's really interesting. But we were talking about how, like, back in the day, that would mean, oh, maybe they're not active, or maybe they're not Mormon anymore, or maybe they don't go to the temple. But in this day and age, who knows what it means? Not wearing temple garments seems like that's just what everybody's doing.
Right. It seems super common. I feel like these days we know several people, several couples of that generation who are like it's kind of up in the air, like what their status is in the church. I feel like lots of people are like really ambiguously Mormon these days, which is not how it used to be. Like it just used to be so black and white.
And I think it's for the best. Yeah. I just can't emphasize enough, like you're saying, that it's a huge shift. And it's a shift that is still sort of jarring to me. In our era of Mormonism, if you were a temple worthy, temple attending member of the church, those garments were always on. You were not taking them off to because you had a cute outfit or because you were filming a Netflix show. You know, like you were wearing them at all times.
And I just feel like a person or like a couple in their position with a Netflix show, or like, let's even put it like time period specific. Let's say it was a TLC show. They'd be talking about how they were Mormon.
Oh, yeah. That would be a central piece of the story.
Right.
Its absence is fascinating.
But they still do the little things, you know, they do drone shots of the local temple or the local church in cutscenes, and it's just driving me crazy.
Yeah.
I gotta know.
They're walking that line so well that, you know, we watched every episode looking for signs and we're like, oh, there's one episode where they go skiing, which looked delightful, and their kids are really good little skiers. I was impressed. They're sitting out drinking hot chocolate, and one of their kids, this little girl, says, "It smells like coffee, but it tastes like chocolate." And Sid says, "Well, it better not be coffee, because if it is, you're gonna be like off the wall. You know, you already have enough energy." And that moment, I was like, here we go. Here's where they reveal themselves.
I know.
He's going to say it better not be coffee. How do you even know what coffee smells like?
Exactly. That would have been the Mormon response.
Yes.
What he said, it's like he self-corrected.
Yes. It feels so carefully not Mormon, but not Mormon to me.
I know. It's driving me nuts. And can I say, if they maybe are out of the church at this point, if they are inactive or ex-Mormon, way to go. Like, they are doing a really good job of catering to Mormons. And what a good little niche to like have their business in Utah and to cater to like that specific type of like generally like kind of like white sort of whatever millennial. I don't know exactly. I mean, I do understand their aesthetic. It's like we were talking about like upscale. It looks upscale. It's not upscale, but it gives the appearance of like a curated kind of upscale, minimally rustic vibe.
Yes.
It's Kardashian, but with a tumbleweed on display. We have not talked about this. The fucking tumbleweed, Elisa. Shay McGee has a tumbleweed on a pedestal in her home. I thought, oh, that has to be like some kind of art piece, which is like kind of cool. Like if it was like an art piece of a tumbleweed. That's very Utah. No, it was a literal tumbleweed from outside. Our pioneer ancestors are rolling in their graves.
Can you imagine like our grandma, if one of us brought a tumbleweed into the house and was like, hey, I got this sculpture, let's put it on the bookshelf, she would have just read you the riot act. For one thing, there's stuff living in tumbleweeds, like gross. Ew.
Yeah, right.
But also
it's just a loose weed.
I think that is a perfect encapsulation of Utah home decor, Mormon home decor, Studio McGee home decor, is that she brought a tumbleweed in from the road and put it up as a sculpture.
That's her idea of like an artful kind of personal touch.
And like you're talking about, it's like the Kardashians, but wholesome. And there's this sense that like it's all interchangeable. Like you could go into Kourtney Kardashian's house or Khloe Kardashian's house or Kim's house, and you don't know whose house you're in, but you know you're in a Kardashian's house. And I feel like that's the Studio McGee. That's how they're tapping into Mormon home decor. Is it looks beautiful, but it's not distinctive enough that you're going to stand out as like out of the group.
Right.
You're in the group.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mormon home decor in general, not just McGee home decor, because there are some trends.
For sure. I was thinking about the like pipeline, the like sort of home decor pipeline we've been on since we were young, since we were like kids. And this isn't exclusive to Mormons, but it's just kind of like the vibe with like white people, especially the like primitive Americana of the 90s. So like kind of like raw wood, and they would like turn it into little nickety knacks, little like kitschy stuff to hang on the wall. And we all had like weird little cows doing stuff in our kitchen. And
Cows
and
and
everything was
geese.
red, white, and blue and
Mhm.
weird. Yeah, cows and geese.
Yes.
I do kind of like a goose vibe. And then we moved on to Tuscan, which suddenly we're all Italian. Everything was like burgundies, and you had those weird like olive oil bottles on the counter that everybody had. And then we moved on to Farmhouse,
Yep.
which is more Chip and JoJo vibes.
The shiplap reigned
mhm.
supreme.
Right. You had a sign that straight up said Farmhouse, made of shiplap, hanging above your door, the stuff of nightmares. Now it's kind of turned into this more upscale looking, but still rustic. Like they're using kind of natural materials and
There are wood
neutrals.
beams everywhere for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. But it's just a little bit nicer
Yeah.
or something.
It makes me think about clean girl aesthetic on TikTok, or like
sure.
vanilla girl aesthetic. It's vanilla girl aesthetic.
For sure.
It's beige mom aesthetic.
Right. Yeah. Beige mom, beige baby. It's just kind of a nightmare. But there are little specific things that make it extra Mormon, which is like when we were growing up, the Mormon family would have a lot more tacky religious art or like church issued documents basically hung on the wall.
And I still think there are a lot of Mormons who still do that. The younger folks trying to be in this kind of like ambiguous beige space don't do it so much. But our parents' generation, honestly, even people my age, if you go into their house, they have a framed picture of the temple, at least one, if not more. If they're being fancy, they have like a print that looks like it's a watercolor painting of the Salt Lake Temple or something, right? Like not just a photograph. It's artsy. And they have pictures of church leaders in their houses. When I was in high school, there was another Mormon girl at my high school. Her family had this huge portrait of Brigham Young over their mantle. And I remember kids at the school who knew her and knew me and knew we were both Mormon one time asking me, do all Mormons have Brigham Young's portrait in their house? And I was like, what? And they thought it was just like, I don't know, like how all FLDS maybe have Warren Jeff's picture in their house or something. Like,
I guess. Yeah, or like we think he's akin to Jesus or something.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate Mormon prophet.
A portrait of Brigham Young. That's a choice.
That's a big swing right there. Yeah. They really went for it. And that's also a family that sent their kids to those like camps where they like kidnapped you in the night from your own bed. So Brigham Young vibes for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then framed copies of the proclamation to the family and the living Christ. You gotta have them.
Classic. You had to. You like had to back in the day.
The next step from there, if you're headed towards a more beige vibe, is instead of like literally framing the proclamation, you have art that just says like families are forever.
Or like decals, like a wall decal. Yikes. That was a phase. Yeah. Nowadays it's more like you buy a little print off Etsy and print it out and put it in a cute frame and put it on your shelf. And you have like 75 of those. And they all say cutesy little things or are quotes from general authorities or scriptures.
But they're more like stylized and they're not necessarily church produced. And so it's like cute. And maybe if you just kind of passed by it, you wouldn't realize you were looking at Mormon art. But when you actually look closely, you're like, oh, that's a quote from Sherry Dew. Oh, that's like an abstract sort of representation of a temple.
Right. Yeah. Or of Jesus or, whatever.
One other Mormon trend I have to call out is a wall decal that says the year that the couple got married and is like established in 1999 or whatever year the mom turned 19 and got married. To me, that is like, oops, I'm in a Mormon house and I didn't even realize it.
Or just like gigantic, the family's last name. But it's like 7 feet long.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case you're wondering if they are a family or not.
They sure are. And their family is forever.
Forever. So yeah, but now we've landed on this a little bit of a more upscale vibe for the Mormons, which is nice. I'm happy for them.
I'm all for it, but it does make the Mormons a little bit harder to spot sometimes. Like these
don't
McGee's, they're tricky.
Yeah, drives me friggin' nuts.
I just like knowing what I'm dealing with,
For sure. I support them either way, but I have to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One other thing that came up while watching this show that we wanted to talk about is trends in Mormon swearing, because there's some funny Mormon swearing going on in this show. Like Sid is like, oh dang, a lot. But the way he says dang, I can't even say it right. It's so Utah. Oh dang.
Dang.
He, like hits
yeah.
the G.
Hitting the G.
Dang.
Get it away from me. Yeah, I saw a funny article, a HuffPost article about Mormon swear words.
Mhm.
And it was basically just like a rundown of the words that you wouldn't hear in Utah versus some things you might hear that you wouldn't normally elsewhere.
Sure.
But it was honestly not that great of a list. Like they refer to fart as the Mormon F word, which
we would not have said fart in our home.
no, we weren't
that
allowed
was
to say
like
fart.
Too crass. You would have said
And
like toot.
We said toot. And if we had said what the fart,
oh no,
that would have been a big problem. They also talk about shut the front door.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like real crass.
Yeah. I mean, I've known Mormons who say that. We would not have been allowed to say that.
No.
We would have gotten a lecture about like avoiding the appearance of evil, or like even saying, oh my goodness. I remember being told like goodness is standing in place of saying God, and you don't want to take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
I mean, it was strict.
Or geez.
Oh, no. We couldn't do that.
Geez.
I just become like a morality police when we talk about these things. I'm like, no, you can't say that.
You can't say geez.
I remember saying crap, and I was in high school, and I had like applied to BYU at that point. I guess I was a senior in high school, and I didn't know yet if I had gotten in. And I remember saying crap at the dinner table, and Mom was like, do you think BYU co-eds say that word?
Yes, Mom.
And I was like, shamed for saying crap.
Yeah. Our language was heavily policed.
We couldn't say that sucks.
No.
We couldn't say shut up.
Yeah.
But let's talk about words that Mormons do say.
Okay.
So on the show, there's a one woman whose home they redecorate, whose name is Laree, by the way. Ooh. The second Laree we've talked about on this podcast says, if you meet a Laree, you've met a Mormon, just so you know.
For sure.
And she says, oh my heck.
That's cute.
Which is cute and very Mormon.
Yeah. Oh my heck. Oh my word. I say oh my word all the time.
Yeah.
That's gonna be in here for the rest of my life.
I say holy smokes and holy moly still.
Oh yeah.
Those are remnants of my Mormonism.
Yeah.
Things like frick, friggin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never said that because it wouldn't have been allowed.
It was too dangerous for us. But I knew a lot of Mormons who did. There was a trend to say fetch.
Yeah.
In place of fuck.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. People.
I know.
But yeah, gosh. Mm-hmm. Even though gosh is borderline. Dang. Heck. Yeah. Shoot.
Flip.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like Napoleon Dynamite really expanded our fake cuss word.
Yes. Napoleon Dynamite, also Mormon.
Yeah, there you go.
Stay tuned for an episode on that one.
Oh, you betcha.
Yeah, if you know other Mormon swear words we're forgetting, please send them to us, because there are so many. And I think a lot of them are regional too. Yeah, like when I moved to Utah for college, I didn't know people growing up who said, oh my heck.
No.
But people there were saying it a lot. A lot.
Oh my heck.
Okay, so I feel like those are the big categories of things we were noticing, like trends in Mormon decor, trends in Mormon swearing. But I have lots of just little random notes that I was taking while rewatching that I would love to throw out there.
Tell me.
Number one, in season 1, I noticed that Shay is wearing a necklace that looks suspiciously like a Young Women medallion. And I kept trying to pause it and get close enough to really see, and I couldn't tell. But she wears it a lot and throughout all the seasons of the show. And at this point, I'm like, she knows she's signaling to a certain group of people. Even if it's not a Young Women medallion. At this point, I don't even think it is. But it's the right shape, the right color, the right everything. that I'm like, she knows what she's doing. She is walking this line like an absolute genius.
I don't want to start a conspiracy, but I have a conspiracy to start.
Please.
And that is that they've left the church, but are really, really trying to keep
maintain the Mormon clientele.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's little things like that that make all the difference. Or in season 4, and maybe throughout the whole show, there are some things she wears that are very nearly temple clothing. Like there's a white dress she wears. It's not long enough, but the sleeves, they go down so far. It's like these big, gigantic sleeves. And just this, I mean, it's cute, but it's kind of like a dowdy white, solid white thing. And it's just like, girlfriend, that looks so Mormon. But they never say it, you know?
But they walk that line, man. Geniuses. That's what I've decided, is that they're actually geniuses.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Later in season 1, we visit their store. They have a store in California, not just in Utah. And we meet the sales associates who work there. And one of them is a woman named Wesley, Wesleigh.
Woo!
Beautiful, long blonde hair, California Mormon girl named Wesley. If that woman is not a Mormon, I mean, what are we even doing here? What do we? I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
Call it off. So there's that. There's an episode in season 2 where they're helping build from scratch a house in Mapleton.
Right.
And one of the owners is Laurie, and her husband, who's an ex-NBA player. And they're building a regulation NBA basketball court in Mapleton.
Because you need that.
And I gotta say, like, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
When have we become like absolute caricatures of real people? Because to me, when you're building an NBA size basketball court in Mapleton, if you've never been to Mapleton, there's not much there. If you're doing that, I think you've crossed that line.
I think you've crossed that line. I think that you're like putting up the signal, like, local, yokel, normal, poor people, bring your pitchforks, bring your torches. Let's get these people out of here. This is crossing the line.
It's wild. The display of wealth is out of hand.
It's grotesque.
Yeah. One more thing about that basketball court. Watching them play basketball in that basketball court, I was thinking about how we would go to the church and play basketball in the gym when we were kids with our dad, and how it was really fun. And I had this realization that, like, where do people who aren't Mormon take their kids to do things like that?
To like outdoor covered area basketball courts at elementary schools. I thought about it too. So they just didn't get the bougie cultural hall experience.
Okay. I just had this moment of like grief when that hit me, where I was like, wow, I've lost something by leaving the church. Like, I won't have access to these things that I had as a kid.
I know. Yeah, the perfect parking lot to learn how to drive. Those big, gigantic Mormon parking lots. I mean, I'm still going to teach my kids how to drive there.
You can still go to the Mormon parking lot and teach your kids how to drive. But there's something about the loss of that, like, indoor nice basketball court that really hit me while watching this, where I was like, man, what a loss.
Yeah. And like, just like church ball in general,
Yeah. It's where I learned to play basketball. It's where I learned to play volleyball. We had like a ward volleyball team.
Yeah.
There were things about it as a kid. And, we've talked about the trauma of being a Mormon kid and the amount of time you were expected to spend on church things. But you also had like some access that I don't know where my kids would access some of those same things. And it's different than being like, well, just put your kids in like school sports or or like, I don't even know what the words are for like actual sports you pay to put your kids in, because we didn't do that. We didn't need to, because we had it at church.
Yeah. Free sports, man.
And everybody was on the team, and it was like a very friendly, easy, accessible way into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. That feels like a loss to me.
For sure.
Makes me a little sad. Anywho. So a couple of other things that stood out to me. In season 3, we have an intriguing episode where they redo someone's basement. Season 3, episode 4. And the man, the husband in this couple, there's a shot where he's like got his arms folded, and you see that he has these huge tattoos on his forearms that say vindicate and defend.
Wow. Number one, I need to know what happened. What's the story? You know,
Yep.
Who are we defending? Who are we vindicating?
Yep.
Sir, should I be afraid?
Having great big forearm tattoos is not a Mormon thing to do.
Mm-mm.
But if you were going to get him as a Mormon, wouldn't you get a giant forearm tattoo that says vindicate and defend? It's like you're fucking Captain Moroni or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Vindicate Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
Defend the gospel and the Constitution.
It just makes me think of like all the Mormons who were involved in like January 6th.
Yeah. Totally.
Do they have vindicate and defend forearm tattoos?
At least one of them. Because it was that guy.
oh. Moving on from that. One other episode that stood out to me was season 4, episode 4, where they redo the front room of a BYU professor and his wife.
Yeah.
And their little family of Irish dancers. The wife keeps referring to the house as she.
Right.
You know, she wants this. She wants her door here. She feels this way.
Yeah.
And Shane said find this weird.
Yeah, weird and like comical. Like,
yeah, they pretty openly mock this woman in a few different ways.
Yeah.
In this episode. And I just had the thought, like, this woman prays to Heavenly Mother and she's gonna get in trouble for it. Like the church is gonna come for her. She's trying her best to be a Mormon feminist in rural Utah with a BYU professor husband. And I worry for her. I don't know how it's gonna work out.
I do too. And her little clan of Irish dancing children.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I know. I got so mad during that scene when she's referring to her house as a she, because that is just so not a big deal to me. That's such a normal thing to do. Like, I gender things all the time if I feel inspired to. Like, sometimes something's a she, sometimes it's a he. It's usually a she.
Like JVN normalized that in Queer Eye.
Oh, sure.
For the mainstream. Like, everybody started doing it.
Right. Why Shay and Sid are acting like it's the strangest thing in the world. That is so Mormon. For somebody to be doing something so benign and like maybe slightly quirky if you really think about it, but it's really not that quirky. And they're like, oh, your house is a she?
Yeah, I've never heard anybody do that before. Ugh. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, they kind of sucked in that moment.
I agree. Also, the other thing I tracked was every single instance when it comes up that nobody knows what Sid does at his job. And it is so many times.
Yeah.
And it's coming up like between Sid and Shay, in front of their employees, with their children, in front of clients. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Stop.
We need to nail down what this guy does.
I can't take it anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if he can take it much longer.
I know.
His poor pride.
Or is he just like loving it?
Yeah, maybe he really does nothing and like it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's just like kind of a cute thing.
But if he really does nothing, why is he the CEO? That's what I need to know.
Right.
Take away the title.
Because he needs an important title because he's a man.
Ugh. Okay, those are my things. What are yours?
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely had a lot of thoughts about the astrophysicist professor, BYU professor's weirdo little homeschooled family. They gave off some vibes. I did like how their space turned out. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, they got a little library and a living room.
They did. I don't know. I am suspicious of people like that. It reminds me of growing up in the church and like going to babysit for families who you arrive to quickly pick up the fact that they're homeschooled. Because you look around the wall and it's like the solar system, the presidents of the United States, the general authorities. And it's just, this is the place we are in right now.
Yes.
And no, there's no television. They made a point in this episode that they had no screens in the house.
And they're in a rural place. I mean, they live
Yeah.
in a very rural location. So these kids, their experience with the world is super narrow.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to imply that all homeschooling is bad or weird or whatever,
No.
but I do think it should be coupled with other
Yes.
perspectives, right?
For sure. I think homeschooling is totally valid, but there's a certain point where people are giving off a vibe like they're really trying to mold their little people, which
And
is
shelter.
not how that actually works. Like, you don't get to choose who your kids are going to turn out to be. So trying to over shelter them, I feel like in most cases will backfire. You know, it's just a little bit alarming. I loved the obvious non-Mormons in the season 4 finale. I thought they were a breath of fresh air. I loved how silly and goofy and authentic they were, and how compared to all the other people that were on the show before them, how they just like stood out so much. It was like, oh wow, yeah, this kind of like took me out of the show a little bit, because everybody else just like really like fawned over Shay and like whatever you like, I like. They just all gave off that same sort of Mormon-y vibe, or at least nearly.
Yeah, it's true. They had more to like say about what they wanted, but also just about themselves. Like, she's like, oh, when we were traveling through Peru after my master's degree, and he's like, we take a lot of family showers. Or she started talking about like the universe and our place in it and feeling small.
She did. She went on and on. She talked about getting used to her bidet living in Italy and how she had to use it to wash her clothes.
Yeah.
Just like, these are people, not that you have to have like a lot of world traveling experience to be a valid human being. These are all valid human beings, but they were just especially, they had a little spice to them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, these are kind of spicy people.
Especially because it came, I think, right after the episode with the kind of pod people, astrophysicist family.
Yeah. And yeah, the people in this season were just, I don't know, especially kind of boring and making boring choices, like the playroom episode. There's an episode where they were renovating a guest room to be what they called a multi-purpose room, which is like a very, I feel like that's so Mormon. It's like multi-purpose room, cultural hall. Like, I feel like those are words we use for things in the church. They use them elsewhere, but it was like kind of a Mormon like. But yeah, just they took a guest room and they turned it into kind of a shittier guest room and threw some beige kid toys in there and called it good. And it was just like,
yeah, and then
mind-numbing.
acted like this was the greatest thing that had ever happened to them.
Yeah, I think the mom wept.
Oh yeah. Multiple times.
I just can't imagine weeping over something like that. And like, I'm glad she felt really good about it.
Me too.
I have to say over and over, I don't hate these people. I think they're lovely. I'm just a hater by nature.
One other thing we need to talk about that we haven't, and I know you took notes on this too, is Tyler the contractor.
Love.
Stan.
Yeah.
Big fans of Tyler the contractor.
Yeah.
In large part because in that bidet conversation, he's like, love a bidet. It changed my life. And I'm like, good for you, Tyler. Way to not buy into this like pearl clutching about bidets.
No.
Way to just be yourself.
Yeah.
And then there's a scene where they get a tub in and he's like, oh, I'm a big tub guy. And he climbs into the tub. And again, Shay acts like, oh. And you know that's kind of gendered. Like, oh, he's a big burly man. He couldn't possibly love soaking in a tub. And I just love that he's like, nope, I'm a tub guy.
You know why he loves a tub? Because he's a big, gigantic, super jacked, like bodybuilder guy. He needs a good soak every now and then. Yeah. And it seems like he's in touch with his feminine side or whatever. He's wonderful. He's the backbone of the show.
Justice for Tyler.
Please bless Tyler.
Please bless Tyler. I mean, in general, a delightful show. Watch it if you're Mormon adjacent. I don't think it'll trigger you unpleasantly. It's like a pretty mellow way to sort of engage with your Mormon background in pop culture without it being in your face. Because in fact, it's very carefully not in your face.
Right. Their religious ambiguity is kind of a comfort. but also
Maddening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy. I mean, you can easily power through it. The episodes are
Mhm.
not very long, and
The seasons are short, the episodes are short. If you get COVID like I did, settle in.
oh yeah, that's a good COVID watch. Don't expect anything revelatory. So
Don't
we'll give it
expect Ty Pennington to show up. But
no. Nobody with that kind of energy. But we'll give it the stamp of we liked it.
thanks for listening to this episode. Follow us everywhere at Please Bless Pod. Email us at pleaseblesspod@gmail.com. Especially email us if you've ever been in the same stake as Shay or Sid McGee. We want to know.
Yes.
And in the meantime, please bless Tyler, the contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Please bless the McGee's new Airstream trailer.
Oh, yeah, that it doesn't fall apart from the heavy
the
load
weight.
of the marble tile in the bathroom that Shay needed.
Yep.
Please bless Sid's sense of humor, that it might improve a little bit. I'm so sorry.
Oh, snap. And please bless this podcast.
Amen.